Welcome to the Scale Up Valley podcast, where we bring the best founders and investors to help you scale a business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today's guest comes from Brazil, São Paulo. His name is Claudio Mifano, the CEO of Livance, also a board member at Hospital Albert Einstein and an angel investor. Claudio, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much for inviting me and to do this really great job of bringing interesting people here to discuss about something that it's very interesting and very hard, which is scaling companies, right?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Claudio. It's always great to cover Brazil and Latam. We covered Brazil and Latam a lot in 2022. So it's always great to come back to Brazil and see how the digital health industry is also evolving in Brazil. So you have an amazing journey. You were able to be part of a successful case of a hedge fund, and then you completely transitioned from more financial markets background to, or investment banking background, not sure what to call it, to entrepreneurship. And we are seeing this more and more happening. But yeah, let us know a bit more about your story and how has been the spark to start Livance.
Cool. So yeah, I was born and raised here in São Paulo, where I am right now. Played tennis like since I was a kid a lot.
Oh, me too.
Didn't like to study a lot except from mathematics, which is I always loved. I bought like my first few stocks when I was 15 years old.
What an outlier! Wow.
Yeah, I bought two stocks that a friend of my father recommended me. I thought it was super cool stock market, even though in Brazil it was not very advanced. You have some pretty old companies in the stock market, but I always found it interesting. I think my father kind of incentivized me. He was more like a marketing sales guy, but he thought like financial market was interesting, and I always loved doing calculations. So he kind of pushed me into that place. So I went to business school here in São Paulo. I was kicked out of the school in my last grade, and then it rang me sort of like a bell, like, okay, now it's time to focus. It's we're close to getting to college, university. Now I think things are gonna get serious, and then I focus a lot, and for 1 year I stopped even playing tennis, gained a lot of pounds, but in the end it worth a lot because I was able to get into the best university here in Brazil, which is in São Paulo. Something that was kind of people wouldn't believe like 1 year before. So it was a special moment for me in the way of believing in myself. When you work hard, you can.
But were you a professional athlete in tennis, Claudio?
No, I was not professional, but I was playing.
You were playing
every day, tournaments, traveling, and so on. It
almost
was not. Yeah, it was not to the point that I thought I was gonna be like a professional player. Also because in Brazil it's very rare that you become one. But I used to play a lot to the point where I wouldn't go too much to school, where I would play tennis.
You would prefer to go to the tennis courts.
Yeah. I remember very well one day I had a meeting with my mom and the school director, and she told my mom, either your son stops playing tennis or he won't be anything. Like, wow, he won't be anyone, right? And then she said, okay, he's not playing.
Strong statement.
She said, he's not stopped. He won't stop. Well, so I went into the business school.
Right.
Also played tennis there, even though Brazil it's not super organized, the college as it in the US, and which I found out later when I did my master in the US.
Where did you? So did you do the? Sorry to interrupt. Where did you do the master in what part of the US?
So I went to Stanford, and that was like after my career in the financial markets. It was after 13 years, going up front. I went to Stanford, and then I was able to join the tennis club there and to play
Amazing.
some tournaments, which was amazing. It was
It's
myself.
possible to have both.
Yeah, I mean, you have some time, even though like you have to study a lot.
Right.
You're living on campus there, and there's like the tennis, the training, and I was able to get a spot on the team. And I never forget, we went to play a national tournament in North Carolina. So we flew all the way to North Carolina. It was
Wow.
me and 5 undergrads. I was like 34 years old. They were all like 18 or 19. I remember them asking for my driver's license, because if you're older than 25, you get a discount on the price. They were all
Okay.
like 18s or 19s. And we played, was like 64 different universities, an amazing tournament, like something that I like you don't see in Brazil. We were able to do well and get into the 16th place. And like I was much older than everyone there. So my teammates, they used to joke with the other teams. Hey, no, this guy is like, he's our coach, but we'll let him play because he gets happy. And I was able to win some matches. So kind of realize a dream of at least playing in something in the US. Um,
You were talking
so
a bit about your story, so that it
yeah, so
was
back
complex during
and
school time, and
yeah,
you
so
tried to play tennis.
back in the undergrad here in Brazil, I went to start as an intern in a hedge fund. It was like a small place, 11 people. Maybe today we would call it a startup, but it was like a hedge fund that I heard about the founders very well. At the time, I had an offer from JP Morgan to join their
Wow.
their FX treasury desk and this place, but I thought, hey, maybe this place is cooler because I'll be closer to the very senior people. And it was like a good shot because the company grew a lot. I stayed for 13 years there. I ended up doing well there together with the whole team. The company grew a lot in terms of people and assets under management. And then I stayed 7 years in the hedge fund as a trader, portfolio manager, looking at my 7 or 8 screens in front of myself, trading all types of assets.
From
Then
2002 to 2009, just following
2002, 2009, yeah, that
your
was mid
LinkedIn.
2002, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's been like more than 20 years since I started my career last year, long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I can see by looking at you. Seems that you were
Well,
talking about 5 years ago, so I'm just now counting the numbers. 12,
yeah.
almost 13 years, right? So, or 13 years in Claritas investimentos.
Yeah. So then I decided to move to a recently created area, which was like wealth management business, where I thought I would be more able to go out of
Right.
the office and meet people and trying to bring clients, earn their trust of high net worth individuals and families. So it was a great journey to help build this area. After 6 years, I was heading the area. We had like 30, a little bit more than 30 families, a few billion in
Right.
assets under management. And then I started getting more excited about their own business. They had like real economy business, some of the
Right.
first like very important tech entrepreneurs in Brazil, some healthcare entrepreneurs, real estate people, and other types
Uh-huh.
of business. And I was getting more excited in discussing those businesses with them
Right.
than only looking into the financial assets.
Yeah.
Uh, I remember one of them, he took me to a demo day of a startup accelerator. It was in Rio. I thought
Uh-huh.
that was really cool and something different. There were like 9 different pitches. I said, wow, this is really different. It was like the first and maybe the only one at the time accelerator in Brazil was 21212. They don't exist anymore, but they were like the first to exist.
Right.
And it was I found it very interesting. And then also at the same time we sold the controlling stake of Claritas, of the company, to a US group.
Uh-huh.
So I thought it was maybe end of the cycle, you know, it wasn't there, the you know, the partnership that used to be, that every year you can, you know, become partner, which I became in the middle of the journey, and then you can increase your, you know, like the equity that you have. So it was going to be different times. So I said maybe this is an end of a cycle, you know, 13 years. I think it's a good
Right.
cycle. You don't see a lot, but
Absolutely.
it worthwhile staying there. And then you know, the world was moving towards technology and so on. That was like 2014. I thought it was old to do an MBA because I was like already 30, a little bit more than 30. At the time of the MBA, I wanted to become a partner of Claritas. I did the CFA, which you study by yourself. It's very hard, but you just study at night or during the weekends. And then I found out that in some US schools, you could go straight to the second year of the MBA. They have like a different version. So I said, well, I'm going to apply to this. I applied to a couple of schools, was accepted at Stanford, which I thought would be the most interesting one. You know, being in California, being the Silicon Valley. I say, oh, like, let's dive into that
innovation ecosystem,
that spirit. You know, let's see if I can get, you know, some different, you know, sauce on myself, on my background.
And this was in 2015 or 2016?
2015, yeah. So I got there June 2015.
So when you left Claritas, so you left almost to start with the MBA.
Yes, perfect. So I had recently got married, so 1 year before. So it was also like an interesting.
Congratulations in 2015.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I had just like the year before, like 2014, I got married. So it was interesting, you know,
almost
living
10
on
years.
campus.
Next
almost
year.
10 years. Yeah, almost 10 years.
Well then.
So we went there, you know, bought a bicycle and a backpack and went to live on campus. Very different than the college that I went here in Brazil, which is like one building inside of, like, in the middle of the, you know, our concrete jungle, as we say here in São Paulo.
Right.
And then so it was super interesting year, very, you know, inspiring and exciting. You know, you dive into this culture of innovation and entrepreneurship, and then you go to a class, and then you read the Airbnb case, and then the founder comes there, and you can, you know, you can ask him, and then the Dropbox guy comes in. Like, I remember, very humble. Like, some people were saying, hey, but your business is very commoditized. And like, the guy was like founder of a $10 billion company, and he was there, very humble, like willing to answer any questions. So like, they make it very approachable. Yeah, they make it very approachable. You hear many stories. I remember, like, a friend of mine, she used to study in the same class as Ivan, the founder of Snapchat. And she said that, she told me that when the guy got a check of $400,000, he was in the middle of the class. He just closed his computer, he left, and he never came back to start like Snapchat. So you hear those stories, and then you kind of, you know, like, also I met a Brazilian there. I wanted to study a lot about like how to start a startup. Then I joined an accelerator there. They call it Startup Garage. Some pretty famous companies were founded there. DoorDash is one of the examples. So we did this whole journey together there. This Brazilian that I met there, Gustavo, an engineer. He was similar moment in life and career. We got along very well. We stayed like the whole year doing classes and projects together. And then by the end, like, it was kind of clear that we wanted to start something together. At that time, I started doing some angel investing. I thought it would be interesting also to learn and to shift my network out of like financial market and go into more this entrepreneurship world.
So this is in 2016, just to to follow the story.
Yeah, 2016. While I was there, I invested in my first startup. It was a friend from the school here in Brazil, an HR tech. I knew nothing about it, but I knew the guy. I thought the idea, the mission was interesting. So, I trust the guy and I invested. And it was a way to be close and then to understand, how things were going to end, and I kept doing that on and on. And that was very helpful in a way to, see from other than from the media, you know, that you see great in the
Right.
media. It's always amazing things that are happening, and then when you see
You know what
behind the
is
doors,
right.
you know, like there's a war going on, and it's not as pretty as it's normally pictured for the outside.
And Claudio, for the ones to understand a bit your story. So at that time when you left Claritas, were you already financially independent? Were you able to accumulate a certain amount of capital that allowed you to take the MBA and become an angel investor? So where were you in terms of the, let's say, corporate ladder or
Yeah.
journey?
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
even though we don't like talking about like personal
Right.
stuff. I think that's key for starting a company, you know, because like the only certainty that we have is that there's a high risk of failure, and then it's gonna take longer than you think. So if you're
Right.
not prepared to it, like financially speaking, of course, emotionally speaking, but the financial kind of comes along, you know, because if you're under financial stress, you're probably not gonna be able to take
Right.
the best decisions or think long term. And if you think more short term, the long term, probably you're gonna take
Right.
not the bad decisions. So I was in a moment where I had I had accumulated like a good amount of
Financial, right.
money that I was going to be able, let's say, to have a few years of
Okay.
time
Perfect.
to try it to the point that
So not
once you
financially
graduate it,
independent, but kind of some years of economic financial
yeah, yeah,
stability that you could take the risk, right?
yeah, it's not that I was going to retire it, but I had a few years that I could, risk
Yeah.
not getting any money and having the time to take the best decision in what I was going to do. And
Yeah.
then once I started, I have the appropriate time for it to, to grow and to
Right.
become maybe something
And
that
when you
you.
started as Angel, it was small tickets that you
Yeah,
started
it's very
to
small. Yeah, it's very small. Also, I think the best
kind
way,
of the
like
5-10K range just to get in or a bit more.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe 15K. Yeah,
Okay.
15K. And then then you adjust. Maybe you do like then you
More or
do five,
less,
maybe
right.
20,
But
but
especially, I think the most scary are let's say the first 3 or 5, right? So
yeah,
that you don't know so much what you are doing, right?
yeah, you know nothing about it. Yeah, you have to consider that it's gonna be zero.
Exactly.
Uh,
That's why I
yeah,
was asking this
for
because I
me,
assume a lot of people are also considering to invest as angel, and I think that the first step is always very difficult to give. That's why I was asking for more details. Yeah.
yeah, no, sure. It is. I didn't have a lot of deal flow at the time. Also 2015 and 16, there was not a lot
Was
of people like starting
the
companies
beginning
from
of the
Brazil.
ecosystem, right? Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but I also thought it was a way that I would pay for learning.
Yeah.
I
Was an
was
aim.
expecting. I was hoping for the no cheering for the best, preparing for the worst.
Right.
But I was sure that I would learn a lot, try to be close to the entrepreneur. Exchange ideas, be close, try to help. Maybe some corporate leads in sales, and try to help it the way I was going to be able to, and
Mhm.
and make it a journey that was going to be able to learn also. So when I was doing myself, I had already seen some stuff, other than study and go to classes at Stanford, which was also very, very interesting and a lot of learning, seeing it
Inspiring, right?
real life, then I invested in some others that started with B2C and then pivoted to B2B because B2C was very expensive. And then
Yeah.
you learn like how long is the cycle. Then you learn that you do like a free pilot with a big company and then don't commit to it, and then you don't have to
Right.
do these things. And then you see like the problem when it's not a technical founder and you have to hire a technical one, like how complicated it is. So I was it's always good to learn with your own mistakes, but it's better to learn with
With
others'
others.
mistakes.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of the thing I started doing. And also, like when you look into the deal and how you analyze, also thinking about in the future when I was going to raise money also, you know, seeing the other side,
Right.
the founder do it, you know, it's always it always helps, you know, other than reading books on how to raise money
Exactly.
as a startup. It's always interesting too. And then you develop great relationships, and then you find out that the best people to talk in the entrepreneurship journey is other entrepreneurs that
Right.
they have been through it. You know, they kind of empathize with you. They know what you've been going through, even though its story is unique. So I was able to start building my network of other entrepreneurs who were always very helpful and very open to help me. So I think the best is to try to talk to people that are kind of like 1 2 3 4 years ahead of you, you know,
Right.
because they've been through your phase. It's not that they've been, you know, 10 years ago, which
Yeah.
they maybe won't remember all the
Market
details,
changes a
or the
lot.
world
Yeah.
has changed. And then, and also, I, you know, from time to time, I try to give back it and then help people that are kind of like 1 or 4 years, uh you know,
Behind. Right.
yeah, before my journey. So that was always really really helpful, and I think that's a really good way to build a network of, you know, sort of like advisors, but like people that will,
Right.
you know, just sharing their journey, and you will learn a lot. You know?
So 2015, you leave Claritas, you move to the MBA in Stanford. 2016, you start investing as an angel investor. You start getting more and more connected, and having a strong desire, let's say, to start a company. So what happens next?
Yeah. So I was going to graduate. It was like a 1 year, the program there.
Mhm.
I was right in the second year of the MBA. They in the at Stanford they call it MSX, like a Masters of Science. That's how
Mhm.
they call it. In MIT they call it like Sloan program.
Mhm.
It's the same in LBS as well. So then it was clearing like that. Things were clearing that me and Gustavo wanted to start something together. We were already working on an idea of a real estate platform that Gustavo had. We had a couple of, you know, users on a pilot that we were running, and then one day I'm having coffee with him. I remember with Gustavo. I remember we were in University Avenue. There's like Pete's Coffee there. It's like a famous coffee place. And then we were there, and then he told me, "Hey, there's a friend of mine from Brazil. He's a doctor. He called me. He was telling about his journey as a doctor and like the challenges of the career. And then he has some ideas on how to tackle it, because things are getting harder and harder for doctors."
Mhm.
And then he said like, "Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, we're working on this idea, but you know, maybe this could be more interesting." I said, "Well, yeah, why not? Let's dig into it." So then the doctor who called Gustavo in order to get some help from him, you know, he was saying, "Hey, like you're in the valley at Stanford, maybe you can help me with this idea." And then
Mhm.
Gustavo told him that he was with me there, you know, like working on some ideas. So then the doctor, Fabio, he was very eager to start something. He flew there to meet us, and he
Wow.
kind of did his speech on like basically the problem that he was seeing. He had already started another startup, but like way before. It was a
Mhm.
marketplace for consultations and exams.
Mhm.
But it was way ahead of the time. It was kind of like the same moment of ZocDoc in the US.
Got it.
He he invited a friend of him, like an engineer, software engineer. They built the platform, but there was no like, you know, adoption of technology. There was no investors. That was before
Right.
2010. But
Right.
he had this entrepreneurship, you know, vein. And then once he got there, we started discussing. We thought, oh, look, this looks interesting. Healthcare is an amazing sector in terms of importance for the population, and it's
Right.
also like a huge. There's a huge amount of dissatisfaction from all the stakeholders. You know, from doctors to patients to health insurance companies to basically everyone, and things are still like this, even though there's a lot of people trying to tackle this. We
Mhm.
were very amazed by some of the things that he told us, uh, and that basically, like doctors, they are the type of professionals that they have the biggest amount of burnout, the biggest level of professional unsatisfaction. Then we learned that in Brazil, almost 70% of the doctors, they do not recommend for their kids to follow the same career path,
right.
which is like unbelievable, you know, like I have a 4-year-old kid, and like you just want for your kids the best in the world, right? So if you don't recommend like following your career, it's really a bad sign, right?
Exactly.
So we said, well, there must be something to change this scenario, because you cannot like improve the healthcare sector with this situation. You know, like he was telling how you know, he had his doctor office, which he already rented from friends. He, you know, put friends together to build a place and share the, you know, the expenses, and the way he was saying that you have such amount of fixed cost that you have to see patients in every 5 minutes. You barely get to look in them in the face. You ask for a lot of exams. The patient goes out, you know, not being satisfied. They go to another doctor, and which then asks for the same exams. Which there's another data which is shocking in Brazil. 30% of the exams that are made, they are not looked into. No one looks into it, the results. So imagine like 30% of all the exams done in Brazil, they go to the garbage, and you imagine how expensive it is and so on. So that you have like this very bad, you know, cycle of things, you know, and the doctor and then the patient, and then the amount of money that is wasted in the system. So once we graduated, that was like mid-16, we came back to Brazil, and we started at the same time running a pilot in his clinic and interviewing doctors. So back to the plan that I have, and I had a few years to, you know, to do something. We stayed for 1 full year interviewing doctors. We interviewed in person more than 150 doctors. So I didn't want to take too long, but I wasn't in a hurry to launch it. I wanted to be as sure as you be, and when you start something, that was the business that I wanted to start. You know, that was the sector, that was the two co-founders that I was going to, you know, work for at least a decade or 2 decades. You know, because you know, you learn that, you know, 40% of the things, the companies that they fail is because like the founders, they do not get along well. Then you see that the second biggest you know, thing that happened is that you launch something that the market,
there is no market,
does not want. So you know, it took us longer. So I was trying, you know, to de-risk. You know, entrepreneur is a risk taker in one way, but you have to try to de-risk, you know, and not like just jump in like a crazy guy, even though at some point you have to just jump it in a, you know, into a hole and see what happens. But during this year, I try to get more, you know, like as sure as I could be that this was the business that I was going to do for many years, and that was, it became very exciting to learn about the, you know, the problem, the challenges, the sector, and so on, up to the point that we launched the Livance and the product like 1 year later in September 17.
And tell us, what is Livance? What is the original idea, or what it is today, and how it evolved?
Sure. Yeah, so we started as a way to help independent doctors to set up and run their own practice, you know, because different than in some other countries, especially in US, but similar to other countries, Brazilian doctors, they mainly want to be independent, to have their own practice with their brand, their name, to, you know, see patients in the way that they want, with all the, you know, the learn, with everything that they learn in, you know, 10 years of study, which is, you know, crazy. The doctors, they study a lot before they start their career. They keep studying a lot. So we thought there must be a way to make like their career easier and more accelerator. So we were providing like a SaaS, you know, a monthly subscription fee, where they would be ready to see patients in 24 hours. We would give them an individual phone number, where our secretary would answer the phone and say, oh, this is like Mike's office, how can I help you? You know, knowing all the schedule and all the details. We would also provide an online presence through a website that they would choose, like say www.mikeorthopedic.com with online scheduling. Also the business cards, and say, oh, this is ready with no investment upfront, a very small, subscription fee, like $50 more or less. So very fixed cost on month. And then we would build like locations, which is like a commercial, no real estate floor in a normal building. We would do like all the renovation in a way that it's a very interesting patient experience with a lot of technology and so on. And then the doctor will pay it only when they have a patient. So out of, except for the $50 of monthly subscription fee, the other cost would be 100% variable. So once the patient gets there, they do a self check-in in a totem that we designed, which is a very cool experience. The doctor gets a notification through our app that, like the patient is there, he sees the picture, so he knows who go in the patient in the waiting room. Then the app tells which room they will do the consultation. And in front of the room, there's a tablet that shows like the picture of the doctor with the name. So there's some sort of like personalization, and looks like more like a digital place, which the patient likes a lot. And then once they finish the consultation, they just press a button as if they're ending like an Uber ride. And then the system knows how many minutes exactly they've used the room. And then by the end of the month, they will charge through the credit card in the app the subscription fee plus the minutes that they've used. So if they stay in the room for 32 minutes, they will pay for 32 minutes, and then on and on. So in the end, it brings a lot of efficiency through the use of the office, and then it translates into a very beneficial economic way for the doctor, because doctors, surgeons, they spend half of the week in the hospital. Doctors at the beginning of their career, they don't have their agenda full. In Brazil and in many other cities, more than 82% of the doctors, they see patients in at least 2 different locations. So the usage of one single doctor office, it's very underutilized.
Got it.
So with the technology, we are able to offer them like full flexibility in opening their agenda, but they will only pay when they have this the patient that they will see.
So they share the office, so you are able to ensure that office is full 100% of the time, and make it cheaper for the doctor. That would not be possible to him to have his own practice. You also provide a better experience to the patient as well in premium locations, from what I understood as well. How were you able to choose premium locations, right? Because typically premium locations are also more expensive, and when you are trying to make it like a system, as you were saying, like a monthly subscription plus payment for the usage of in minutes, you want to make it as cheap as possible, but at the same time, I understand it's also important to position the doctor, so the patient also feels, first, the doctor loves to be where he's giving the consultation, but also the patient feels, wow, this is a real stuff. This is not small stuff or a doctor that I can't believe in.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, there's a huge correlation in the way that the patient will see the doctor with the experience that they will have. My co-founder, Fabio, the doctor, he did like an MBA in Brazil, and he studied how much the impact on the patient would come from the technical study and the graduation and so on, and the experience, the hospitality, the place where he goes, so the other part of the experience. And he found that through studies that it's kind of like similar way, so if you're an amazing doctor, it's not enough, when competition it's growing more and more. We normally tell to the doctors, being a doctor, it used to be a differentiation. Now you have to create a differentiation, because they're used that now competition it's higher. There's more and more doctors coming into the market. So 20, 30, 40 years ago, like you're a doctor, that's like enough. Today it's not enough. You have to provide like a good experience, an experience it starts when they will like book a meeting, they book a consultation. If they call the secretary and they answer right away, or if there is an online way to book, when they go to a to a building, if it's easy to park the car, or if there's like public transportation, if they'll see you in like in time, or if it'll take longer. So there's a bunch of touch points. Nowadays we talk about the customer experience, but in the healthcare sector, it's kind of like it's lagging. And doctors, when they have their own practice, their own office, they don't oh, let's think about the whole experience of the patient journey, and let's see all the touch points. They don't think about it. They think about it, how can I study and how can I serve well, which is very important, but it's not enough when you see the whole the whole thing. Kind of similar if you go to a lawyer. If you go to a lawyer and then their office is like crappy and old, and then you will see, oh, is this guy like trustable and so on. I mean, like it or not,
as well, right? So
like it or not, this is the way people will judge. So it's a combination, right?
Especially in intangible knowledge, when it's the case, right? So you are not able to buy something from the store. You are just bringing what is the knowledge of the professional that you are seeing. So then the tangible factors are very important to you to have trust in what you are buying, right? And we know that it happens all the time, that we can have an amazing office and have a crappy professional, and the opposite. But in general, they are aligned. It's in a certain way, right? So if they are able to have a good space and a good clinic, it means that he was able to provide a lot of value to a lot of people, and that's why those people are rewarding that person with the resources to have a premium place, right? So almost 6 years later, right? So you will turn 6 in August of 23. Where are you now, Claudio? What metrics can you share? How much did you raise, etc., etc.?
So now we launched in September 17 our first location. Now we have 14 locations. They're mostly in São Paulo, 11 of them. We have 2 in Rio, so we expanded to another state last year. We have 1 in the countryside in a city called Campinas. So we already started expanding geographically to other states. It's interesting because once we start, scaling to other locations, we start offering also mobility to the doctors. And I say doctors, but it's also healthcare professionals. So we have a lot of nutritionists, psychologists. But now with 14 locations, with being a member, paying the monthly subscription fee, they have 14 locations for themselves. So they can be one day near the hospital, one day near their home, one day near a different area that's full of patients. So, so nowadays the patient doesn't want to cross the city, to go to a doctor. Also because competition is, it's stronger.
Especially in mega cities like São Paulo, this is super important. For smaller cities, it might not be so relevant, but in such big cities, moving São Paulo from one side to another might be five hours, right? So same as going from the north to the south of Portugal. So just to have an idea.
It's the same as crossing São Paulo. Yeah, right. True. So now we have more than 5,000 members, so more than 5,000 doctors and healthcare professionals that are members, which is like it's a pretty significant number. If you think about like the main hospitals in Brazil, like you will see many that have like this number of doctors that are associated. So this is kind of a relevant group of doctors and professionals. We've done with this year we'll turn 1 million consultations also, which is also relevant when you think about other healthcare institutions. We've raised a little more than $10 million so far, which for Brazil it's relevant. When you think about US, it's not very relevant, but I think we were able to do a lot with maybe not a lot of money. We started back in 2016 and 17. It was not the scene that we saw in 2020, 21, 22. There was not a lot of like angel investors. Basically, I went to raise money with my former clients, from Claritas, which was not like tech entrepreneurs. It was like traditional business people that trusted me and thought that the idea was cool. And then they trust me as as an individual, which is in a way what you do when you invest very early on.
Right.
In 2020, we started accessing venture capital. We did our first round with an institutional VC, and then we started expanding more rapidly. So in a way, it was good to start at
the
a
seed
time
round
that
was with Astella, Claudio, or
Stella, yeah.
Astella. Astella has been on the show for the ones who are curious also to know more about Astella. There's an episode in 22 last year where we interviewed one of the partners at Astella.
Nice, yeah, amazing guy. So it's interesting also to mention this. I started developing my relationship with them right after I came from Stanford. So it was 2016, end of 2016. I met one of the founders there, and I was kind of going back and forth with them like every 6 months, just going to get some advice, share what I was doing, like say, like you have to meet these people, see this, this tool and so on, and get some feedback. So once we went to really raise VC money, like the relationship was already very, very solid, very well developed. So it gets very much easier, never nothing is easy, but it's easier once other than like you meet someone and you say, I'm raising money now, you have like 2 weeks to to take a decision. Yeah, which is always very bad. It's bad because it decreases the chances of you to raise money, but also even in the case that you raised money from the people that you recently met, you don't know the person, and that person will be on your board, will go through difficult times with you. So you kind of have to get a good, relationship, personal, things need to get along well. It needs to be someone that you enjoy talking, calling once you have like a challenge and you want to share something. So the money it's important, of course, but it comes a lot of things together, and the earlier the person, the higher the chances that things are going to do well with the relationship.
So you started in 2017, I would assume with your own money and with some angel money. Then in 2020, you have your first institutional round, the seed round of 1.5 million. And in 21, you have the Series A, a 6 million Series A as well. And you also have a net count already of 190 people, which is quite impressive in such a short period of time, almost 6 years. And at the moment, you are growing quite quickly as well, right?
Yes, yeah. We're almost 200 people. So this kind of almost 65 people like are in our locations, in our 14 locations, and the rest would be in our office, which is of course kind of like spread out.
Right.
Tech team is spread out in Brazil. It's remote first, then we have some some teams that come more to the office, some less, but it's a big number. It's a big team. It's a lot. It's a lot of people. It's always less than what you need, but it's a great group of people. We were able to create this culture. We didn't grow fast in the beginning, because we didn't raise too much money in the beginning. So it took us a while. Last year or 21, we kind of grew more. We doubled the size of the team. So, but growing too quickly is also complicated, but because then you have more new people than old people in the company, and then if you don't keep the culture, it's very complicated, and it's very tough to hire well when you have to hire like a ton of people. But I mean, I'm very proud and happy of the team that we have. Like also both the almost 200 people, but also the leadership team that we were able to to bring here. And it's kind of like the founders day-to-day job changes a lot. Before you have to raise money, it's always that you have to do it. I remember there was a Stanford professor say, like, founder or CEO of a startup, it's at least 50% of the time, focus on raising money, which is very true. And of course,
and recruiting
sometimes it goes to 90% of the time, and sometimes it goes down to 20. But on average, I think he was right. But in the beginning, it's more about acquiring the first few customers, building the product. Then it's more like
doing
on
the
hiring.
interviews, as you said.
Yeah, I love interviewing people, but at some point they say, oh, you cannot interview everyone anymore, because then it's
you need to go forward.
Yeah, then you have to train people, and or you trust, like, you have co-founders, but then you bring very senior people who are better than you at different topics, and you bring some doing marketing much better than you, then you bring someone to head people, which is better than you, and then you start getting off the track and letting these people do their job, and being ready to help with whatever they need, trying not to make their life suck. Try to be helpful and not be too picky, and which is also a very big challenge, because it's the company you founded. You
needed to do everything in the beginning, right? So and now, fortunately, you have people that know more about their areas than you, and it's difficult to let go, right?
It is, and it's important to share that with the team, to say that it's a challenge for you, to ask for honest feedback, to build trust, because we're not gonna do everything right, but I think if the team knows that you want to do the best, you are always open to improve yourself, to be a better version of yourself. I think these people, the senior people that come, they also teach you a lot. But you have to be open. You have to show them that you're really open to change and to improve, and then kind of build like a positive, a virtual cycle.
And I assume that now it's all about having the right people on the right seats on the leadership team, and then those leaders will be able to lead the rest of the team, right? So the importance of having the right leadership team for each stage of growth becomes more and more important, and the great chunk of your time, I assume, keeps being ensuring that there is clarity of vision, that you have the right people on the right seats there, and that there is cash on the bank.
Yeah, you sum it up very well. Yeah, I couldn't define it better. Yeah, so it changes a lot the way you work, like the way you get things done is not you going there and getting things done, it's doing things through people. Yeah, to influence, to making sure people work together well. You bring people are different. Good people, in general, really good people, they have their own views, they have their own ways of doing things. So how can you put them together to work very well, to build trust? It's very hard, like it's the first time I do this, like I worked before in a hedge fund. There's nothing to do with this, it's a very small group of people that are very very similar. They mostly come from the same university, or there are 2-3 universities, all men, like probably they grew up in the same area. So there's not a lot of types of people. And here it's very different, like you have many levels of hierarchy, different styles of people, different experience. Also, we're building something new. So in many cases, it's not that you bring someone that did that before, so we're kind of creating new stuff. So there's a lot of there's some science, there's some art on it, and we are like we're learning by doing. And then you have to be very humble and very open with people about it, that we are also learning. I was reading a book the other day, how to be a CEO. I just share with everyone, say I'm reading this book because I've never done this before. So so forgive me if I'm
important
sometimes, or doing things that you don't think it's the right one, but just let me know, and
just let me know, right?
Yeah, just let me know.
I will not judge you.
I always say, look, don't let me screw the company I founded,
Right. super important. And it's incredible how time flies when we are having a great time. Claudio, I know that we also would like to cover a bit why we don't have more success cases in healthcare in Brazil. I think that we covered it in other episodes, so I would prefer to focus on your story here, and let's go to the last segment of the show, where we have a quick question and answer dynamics to close the show. Sounds good?
Yeah, let's do it.
So if you would have the opportunity to have a coffee with yourself in 2017 when you started Livance, what advice would you offer to your younger self?
Okay, so my younger self is not like a very, very young in the beginning of the career. It's in the beginning of the startup journey.
2017, yeah.
2017, yeah.
So he's now doing the interviews, talking with doctors, leaving Stanford to...
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I talked a lot with, with doctors before. I did the first 50 to 60, sales. I was, the phone in the website was mine. I went to the location, take the tour with the doctor. So I did that with a lot. Maybe what I would recommend is to talk more with other, potential hires, get to know a lot of people, because, I mean, you hire people and you never know, you like this person, but you don't know if you could have like a twice as good or 3 times as good, or if it's good enough, or if it's time to, to hire someone more senior. So the broader your network with people that can work with you at some point, the better are the chances that you're gonna do the correct hires at the correct time, because in a startup, like hiring the right person 6 months before or 1 year before, like it changes everything, So, but you need to get to know a lot of people, and it's not like one conversation and you know one and then you know other. I kind of always did that, but maybe I would have done it more, and I would suggest people that just to have a really broad network of people that are, potential hires in the future. And if you already know the person, then you start having the challenge and it kind of matches the thing. So it's kind of the art of putting like good people together at the right moment.
And what are you the most proud of on your journey so far?
It's tough to say one thing, but I would say that the stories that but I would say like the bunch of stories that comes out both from clients and from, the team, it's really something that makes me really proud. When a client, a doctor, they say, "Oh, I'm really thankful for what you guys have built, because what I did in my career in the 3 years, thanks to Livance, it was going to take me 15 years. I was the first doctor. I was the first person in my family to go to university. I'm the guy who pays for the whole family with the money I get here. And you were able to accelerate my career. I was able to pay for my mom studies. So that's kind of really fulfilling, the impact that you see. And also on the side of the team, when you see people that they admire you and then they are inspired by you, and you tell about a book, you share about a book that you read, and then they read it at the same time, they come to you, and then you promote them 3 times in the same year. Like you see people really growing, coming, from below, and really willing to do the right thing, willing to join on your mission, living the same dream that we started. That's very fulfilling. You see the impact on, on the people. The number is nice, 5,000 doctors, 200 people, but when you focus and you hear different stories, one story, like the impact on the family and so on, and that kind of keep me very inspired and excited to keep, continuing growing, and growing means bringing more opportunity to people.
Worst advice ever received?
Yeah, I was kind of in the beginning, and so we had this let's say this model where we would provide everything that independent doctors would need. And then at that time, there was a big trend in Brazil, which be very like accessible clinics. You know, they say like popular clinics. So with very low prices of consultations, and some of these players were growing very well, growing a lot, attracting a lot of money, a lot of media, because it was interesting that you would, you know, give access to healthcare consultations to people that could not afford. And it seemed like a huge thing. And I remember one very seasoned, you know, entrepreneur, he told me, hey, why don't you, you know, just pivot and just do it, you know?
Right.
And then I remember, you know, I said, like, I built this business, I don't know, like this other one, it doesn't feel the business that I should build. There's a lot of other people doing, and I don't know, I don't see myself like switching the business to copying something that someone is doing, even though I don't think it's wrong to copy things that are doing well. I think that's part of the game. But I say,
Right.
I don't know, it just doesn't feel it what I should do, you know. And then these other types of business, in the end, they prove not to be as good as it seemed to be, and maybe mine didn't seem to be like as sexy or as trivial as it would be, but things are kind of like different now. And I remember one quote of, there's a video of Jeff Bezos saying like, you should never try to catch the perfect wave, because you will never catch it, you know. It's not gonna be with you, you know. You see the big wave and you say, I'll catch this. He tells you like, you have to do something that you like, that you're, you know, passionate about it, and then position yourself, and then wait for kind of the wave to come, you know. Because if you try to catch the wave that is there and then everyone is seeing, like, why it's gonna be you. And also I was rereading the like Peter Thiel book, From Zero to One, and he was saying like that the great business is like when you're finding things that are maybe unattractive to other people, you know, seeing opportunities in things that are maybe not obvious or not super sexy. So, but keeping yourself, you know, focus on your day-to-day business and building it, and not being, you know, distracted by the media or by other entrepreneurs or by huge sums of money being raised. It's not easy, but I remember that very well.
Claudio, we will leave the resources for a second episode, and we didn't even cover your position as board member at Hospital Albert Einstein, but we need to leave some stuff to discuss in a following episode as you keep scaling the company. Thanks so much for making the time to join us today.
Oh, Mike, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking about our journey here, and yeah, congrats on your journey with your podcast and taking a lot of, you know, knowledge for your listeners. Bye bye.
Thank you, Claudio, and to our community, thanks for being there. We keep bringing you the best of the best to make your life easier as you scale up your company. See you soon, and keep scaling.